And now, here's your host of Shaping Success, Wes Tankersley.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to Shaping Success. I'm your host, Wes Tankersley, back with another Treasure Valley edition. We have a guest with us that my friend Rance introduced me to, which have been really great interviews. We did one this morning, and we've got a couple more coming up. But this is Micah Orchard, and he is a real estate agent, or not real estate agent, an insurance agent with Farm Bureau. Sorry about the realtor thing. You work with realtors all day, and that's how it goes. Micah, thanks for hanging out with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's this is kind of a neat thing that I enjoy doing, is kind of like a networking thing, getting to know people in the Treasure Valley who have businesses and what they do. And we were talking about it before, how I was with Farm Bureau, which is who you work for before, and really liked them as a company. There was kind of some monetary issues and things like that, which you struggle with everyone, and they have increases and sometimes you get a better rate. But tell us a little bit how you got into the insurance. So like, where'd you grow up and those types of things, and then why you got into insurance.
It's because of, and those are actually really good questions. I mean, I got into insurance mostly because of the fact that there's full autonomy to be able to do what you want to do. You can make your own schedule where you're self-employed, but it's your own business. And so a lot of the insurance agents, especially with Farm Bureau, Farm Bureau allows you to jump in with just being an agent. And so which a lot of big carriers, national carriers, aren't going to allow you to do. So there's a lot of trial and error, but there's help, there's training. But I got into insurance because of that, just the freedom of it, and it's what you put in is what you get out. And if you don't do a lot of work, you're not networking, you're not connecting with people. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it comes down to helping people.
Right.
I mean, I know it sounds pretty cliche, but it's true, and you're licensed through the state. So you are helping people. Some people need help. They don't understand things. So it's kind of a win-win.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how the insurance thing can be. My previous home, that was a rental, and I had renter's insurance on it, and we had a little flood in it, and I struggled really bad with trying to figure out how to handle that, because the renter or the homeowner's insurance was coming after my renter's insurance. And there was a lot of things. And like, I remember being on the phone with my agents, like, what do I do? Those are the questions that you probably get a lot of, I'm guessing. And you're selling a product, and a service is basically what it is, to help people, be protected. Right.
Right. It's to re-indemnify them and bring them back to a whole in the event of, any kind of loss. And I think the most important thing is how that's handled. But yeah, insurance, there's a lot to it in the property and casualty side. But being able to help somebody, but also make a living, I think that's important. There's a lot of agents and a lot of other carriers, people will switch over because, especially what you just said, right? In your case, that you call your agent at that time, there was a flood and it was a rental property and there's two different types of policies. What do I do? It's tricky. Right. Who picks up the tab for that, and then explaining it, and then I think getting ahead of it and having those conversations with the insured, which would be in that case yourself, would explaining that, hey, in the event, you own this house, but you rent it out to tenants, explaining what you're responsible for and what you're not responsible for. That's really important, because right. A lot of people, they just rush through it, or an agent, who knows with what carrier, they may not even take the time to explain it to you. And then all of a sudden there's water damage or something caught fire. And then you're kind of like, look, I didn't know I didn't have water coverage under. So there's a lot of holes. There's a lot of gaps in policies. So I think thoroughly explaining it to people, they should be aware. They should know what they're getting. They should know what they're responsible for. It's transfer of risk. And I have seen some pretty brutal things come across my desk where, somebody, for in instance, they they're switching over, and they're frantically switching over because they just ran into having this cheap premium on their homeowner's policy, and then there was no water coverage. So now they're stuck with water coverage. Believe it or not, is crazy because it can come from like a washer that's right next to the
Right.
dryer, and if it's in the same vicinity as where a bathroom is on the same level, there's water backup, pipes freeze it, and then believe it or not, a lot of it will come through um, in the kitchen area for the fridge. There's lots of water leaks for that, and so I work in cahoots. I'm in the same office as our claims, and I'll ask them. And there's just massive payouts. I mean, it's just done daily. $1,000 check, $12,000, $30,000. We have to pay these things.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a crazy thing about insurance too, is like you think of it like as the person who is insured, you think of like, well, I'm one person. If I don't have any accidents, if I don't have any claims, if I don't have anything, well, then I cost the company $0. But you might be that unicorn, right? Like you might be the person who never has those issues, but everyone next to you on the left and the right has speeding tickets and car accidents and water damage and everything like that. And that's what causes the rates to go up, right? There's more people insured, more problems.
Right. So that's really, 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 really big right there. So you have a lot of people that have really good behavior. They're very responsible. They never really have any kind of accidents, and they could be clean as a whistle for 20 years. And then you get some 23-year-old, and nothing against, anybody that's 23. It's just, we all know they're going to drive a little bit faster. They're going to be on their phones. And it's just, I mean, I did it.
Right.
I drove quick, and so, but they could go total out a brand new Subaru. And then we got to write a check for $23,000. So it's in reality, I mean, it makes sense, but it's also, I mean, being in the industry, just never ever have a claim. You're responsible, but then all of a sudden you're hit with a rate increase, and you have to take it just like everybody else. But I think one of the unfortunate things, though, is like if somebody has any kind of a claim for their roof, and I'm seeing a lot of this go around because you get a lot of people that will go door to door and they'll point out and they'll say, and this will be a lot of helpful. This will be very helpful for the listeners, mostly because these roofing companies, they do repairs so they can change out a roof. But if you're being told, hey, just contact your insurance company, let them know you need to make a claim to replace the roof. An adjuster comes out. Yeah. He's going to come out. He's going to come look at it, and there's got to be a direct peril. And the direct peril is, was there a windstorm? Was there hail? Was there a tree branch that fell on it that caused that for all those shingles? Because let's face it, when we look at getting a roof replaced, it's not $5,000. I'm willing to go find another carrier. Then they're looking at that. And then you're rated higher, and a lot of people may not want to take you.
Right.
So a lot of the insurance companies are nipping that in the bud real fast, where they're saying, no, there was no hailstorm or there was no wind or anything that caused this. This is just standard wear and tear, and you want us to write a check for $20,000 to have the roof replaced. So the roofing company's like, I get it, but at the same time, it's like, hey, it's got to be from an accident. There's a direct peril, right? So that's an interesting thing. So for a lot of the listeners out there, I want to get caught up in that because there's ramifications for it, and you might not get anywhere with getting the whole roof replaced. We're talking thousands of dollars.
Yeah, it's not a cheap thing, and that's the thing. Like people doing that, and it's just like with medical insurance. It's the same thing. Like the more people who do that, like I worked at Les Schwab for 11 years, and when I first started working there, it was self-insured. So like they basically had their own pool that they paid into, and you had insurance, and you'd go in, and it was really good insurance because you'd go in and you have this much deductible, they'd pay it or whatever. But when I first started working there, they're like, you guys, they're going to start charging you more to go to the emergency room because people have the sniffles and they go to the emergency room. And so if you go to the emergency room, your deductible goes from $20 to $100 because they're going to cover more of that out of your pocket. So you better make sure you're sick. Now, if you're admitted, then that's waived. But the fact of the matter is that we're overusing this. And that's the same thing with the roofing company, right? They're coming in, they're knocking on your door. They're trying to get you to replace your roof because they make money off of it. What they don't tell you is that there is, even if it's needs to be replaced and it's from storm damage or whatever, you're still going to have a rate increase. It's still going to go against your record, right? It's still going to be something that can affect your premium.
It's going to definitely affect the premium, and it's definitely going to stay on the record for years. Yeah. And there's a loss history report on all the property that's going to be checked anytime you're trying to go to a carrier, and they're going to see that. And then if they are going to take you, you're going to be paying, you better buckle up, because you're going to be paying a lot more. Yeah. I have a good example that I have a good friend that lives in Melba. He had another carrier. He was trying to come over, and nobody would take him. And he was trying to go through a broker that that they provide insurance, but these from like the Midwest, they're these no name insurance companies. And I saw what he was going to pay. It was a lot.
Right.
A lot. I mean, it was triple what he originally had. And, explaining it to him, because his agent didn't explain it to him, but yeah, it increased it quite a bit. I feel bad for him, but some guy just came, knocked on his door and said, "Hey, if you need a new roof, you can call your insurance company." And so it ended up being a really bad deal, and nobody would take him, and he had to pay an arm and a leg. And so I would just watch out. I would be just cognizant of that. Now, and on the flip side, like if there really is a direct peril and something really does happen, and you really do need to have that done, utilize it. But if you don't, it's one of those things, you got to be cognizant of it. But yeah, though, when in hailstorm and things like that do happen, and it's going to knock shingles off, and there's going to be problems. And so, just, I guess at the end of the day, just be an honest person, be a good person. And
right.
If it's,
if we had more people that were honest about it, we'd probably have lower rates, I'm sure. I mean, that's one of the things that you run into, right? Like, because if you're going in there and you're lying about it, like if there's these people knocking on your door and doing that, like, and I know they are. I've had a couple different careers, and it's interesting because I actually did part of the training to become a State Farm agent, and I looked into a couple different things. And one of the things was a roofer that called me, like I was trying to get a job doing that, and he was like, "Yeah, we do this, 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 and this." And you're like, "Huh, interesting." The idea is to walk around, look up at the roof, see if you can see damage from the ground, knock on their door, and then go ask them to replace their roof. And it's really no cost to them because their insurance pays for it. And you're like, huh, sounds like a scam to me.
Yeah. They're putting a stop to it. And so that's probably hurting the roofing company. They will come to the door, and then you do have to pay that deductible first for that to kick in, of course, whether it's $1,000 or $2,500. But yeah, the roofing companies love being able to replace the roofs for those causes.
Yeah. And it's sad because there are good people out there. There are good roofing companies that aren't trying to do it.
Yeah.
And these kind of like, I don't want to call them fly by night, because they're not really fly by night. Like, they're companies, like they're out there. And they will do it. They'll knock on your door and tell you that you need something that you don't, and get it covered. And then in the end, it's really costing you more money than you really see,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You hit it right on the nail there. There's really good roofing companies out there that are honest, and that don't go out and, I guess, try to rile up business that way. But there are some honest, hardworking contractors out there, and my hat's off to them. But the ones that may be looking just for that, just to make a buck and charge it to an insurance, I think it's coming to an end.
Yeah. Well, that's great, because that's not what we need. We don't need those rate increases just because people are doing things they don't need to do.
Right.
So tell me, what did you do before selling insurance? And then let's talk about why you chose Farm Bureau over the other ones.
I've come from pretty much a whole line of just different work, anywhere from, I went and cut hair for a little bit, became a barber. I've lived many places, lived in Hawaii, San Diego, Vegas, Washington. When I was a lot younger, I traveled around, got to experience a lot, see a lot. But I landed back home. Idaho's the original, I was born here, and throughout most of my younger life, I was raised here. So, and I think naturally anybody that's going to anybody that's originally from whatever small town or state, they're going to want to venture off and go explore, and then they come back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, a wide array of just different jobs. Cutting hair to, I've done commercial sales, so business to business, where, that's a really rough one. Janitorial supplies and selling to the school districts and things like that. That's pretty difficult. So, a lot of job experience, working with people, understanding people. And I think eventually I just landed at Farm Bureau because I had a good friend. I trust him. And he just said, "Hey, look, I think this is something you should look at. You work well with people. You're a pretty honest guy. Like, you're going to tell people how it is. And why don't you check it out?" So I checked it out, and just the fact that they're a local company, instead of just working for a large corporation that's out of state, there's a little bit more attention to detail, a little bit more help. So that was a pretty big allure to it.
Yeah, and so Farm Bureau, for those of you who don't know, like you had just mentioned, it is an Idaho only thing, and I have a pretty good understanding of it because I grew up in Oregon, and my agent, when I had Farm Bureau, and I just recently broke up with my agent, so that's what it feels like. It's like I'm sitting in AAA going, "Hey, he doesn't know this, but this is what I'm doing."
Yeah.
But they have another farm. I don't know if it's Farm Bureau, but like they used to have a separate company for Oregon called Country Companies that my parents got insurance from. But my best friend's father-in-law could not be my agent because we lived in Oregon. And so we spent all this time. And once we finally got to Idaho, once we moved across the border, we ended up going with Farm Bureau. And it's a great company. You get that. I feel like with our agent, we always could just call them. Like, I still have their phone numbers in my phone. And if I had a question, he'd answer it for me, whether he's helping me or not. He might not be happy about answering the question because it's not related to him. But yeah, I mean, it's just different,
Yeah, I think it's different back to what you were saying, because you could just get a hold of him, and you had his cell phone number, and you could text him or you can call him. When you're going through a national carrier, you're going to most likely have to call him through an 800 number, and then you're going to it's round robin at a call center. So you might have somebody else that's trying to help you out, and then if you call back to retouch on whatever the issue is, then a different person, they have to read the notes, you have to re-explain it. So the conveniency factor of being able to text somebody, a local agent at a 208 number, and say, "Hey, man, do I have coverage for this, or I need to add this car, I need to take this vehicle off." Right. But one of the big things that Farm Bureau really hits on, and the home office is out of Pocatello. Mm-hmm. And so what they really hit on is we have a federation, and the federation supports the agriculture. So as we kind of have seen what's going on years prior, there's been some issues with the agriculture community getting support and help, not getting a lot of help, maybe from the federal government. And so that's where our food comes from. And it's imperative that we put them first, and they're the pinnacle of that. And so we have a federation that goes out and supports them financially. We back them up. So I can't remember off the top of my head if there's actual just grants and things like that. But in our policies, we're able to confine and keep the policies pretty low on premiums. We have a one-time annual due, $60. And so what that does is that all of that's reallocated, and that's helped out to all the farmers and all the agriculture here in Idaho to keep them going. So that's, we're a big backbone to that.
Right. And that's great. Would you consider it like, I can't remember if I might be wrong. Is Farm Bureau like a co-op? Is that kind of what it is? Or is it not that model?
Co-op meaning?
Like everyone puts in their money, and then it just kind of it gets dispersed where it's supposed to. Like you get in an accident, then like the money's there and it goes back out. Because like isn't like a national, like you just pay into it and they take the risk and hope that it's going to happen. Maybe that's not a thing and I just made it up.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
You would know if you knew you would know.
Yeah, if I knew, I would know. I don't want to get any hot water there, but I do know just on on a side note, what we do on a local scale. And, the irony of it, though, and it's kind of weird, is there's a farm bureau of like Oklahoma, and there's a farm bureau of Utah.
Mhm.
But anything and everything that they do is confined to that state.
Right.
So we're not in all 50 states, but we do as much as we can just by statewide. And but yeah, those annual dues definitely help out with the ag community.
Yeah, which is great because, like you said, that's a big thing. Like, I think we're the number one. And it's funny because Idaho is not always like, hey, everyone thinks of potatoes, right? And I didn't really realize, I always thought that it was like, hey, we grow more onions here than we grow potatoes, but people think of us as the potato state. But we supply the majority of the country with potatoes out of the state.
Oh, dude. The ag side here it's not just potatoes. You're right. It's, like small ancillary, like even onions and things, like even watermelon, all the way out and like past right on that. I can't remember the small name of the town, but it borders Oregon. And I mean, we have tons of agriculture, like, and they sell to a lot of the Fred Meyers and Walmart here.
Yeah.
So it's important to keep them going. That's really hard work. And as we can see with all the growth here, it's just crazy with how much growth now Boise connects to Meridian connects to Nampa, all the way up to Caldwell. And it's absolutely insane, especially if you've been here for at least 10 years and you've seen it. But I guess where I'm going with that is, we're seeing a lot of the farm fields being rooted up or just taken away. And so it's these, we have real estate developers moving in, and they're putting in inline commercial, they're putting in apartment complexes and things like that, housing developments. And it's hard for them, especially when somebody knocks on your door and they say, hey, we'll offer you $20 million for your land. What are you going to do? The average person isn't going to take that,
Yeah, it's crazy too, because like you think about that. Like, I was at a customer's house in Meridian today installing an exterior shade, and she's like, Idaho has a lot of weeds. And I was sitting there going, they do. And what's funny is that like this house right here 10 years ago was farm ground. They were growing corn on there or, whatever. And there's mice running around and there's bugs and all that stuff. It's like any time you lived out in the country, you knew what it's going to be like. But like, you basically live in the city until the farm ground disappears. You still got farm ground in your backyard.
Yeah. It's interesting to see. I think it's because where we live, we're West Boise, so we're seeing a lot of in our area, like Lake Hazel 5 Mile area, where it was just all cornfields, and then now there's like a liquor store and a gas station, an ice cream shop, and it's like, wow, that happened quick.
10 years ago, there was a guy out there taking his dog through the field and hunting pheasants, and now we got a liquor store.
It's weird. It's just kind of weird, man. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of surreal. And then you notice the pace of Boise. Like if you go, before, if you went out of, like take a vacation, you lived here for a while, and you go to like somewhere like Las Vegas, and like, man, it's crazy. It's super busy. And then you come back here and it's slower. We're almost matching that tempo and that cadence now, where it's almost as fast paced. It's gotten a lot busier.
Well, it's crazy. You look at like the type of people that have come here, and I'm sure that you've seen that a lot. Like, I go down to California and I learned how to drive 15 miles an hour over the speed limit. And if I'm driving 15 miles an hour over the speed limit, I'm still going too slow. So you combine that with the Idaho drivers who are usually going 5 miles an hour under the speed limit, and this is what you get.
Yeah, well, it's a good mixture of people that moved here from like bigger cities, Portland or Seattle or certain parts of California. And then you have people that have been here for eons and they drive slower. And then you have folks that drive fast. And so it actually, going back to insurance, that causes a lot of accidents. And as you can see, for a lot of listeners that are in this area, they're seeing more and more accidents where it's before, maybe 10 years ago, when you saw an accident, you drive by it real slow and like, oh my gosh. But now it's just like, I got to get home, or I got to get to A to B. And you see all these accidents and it's like, oh well, so it's a lot more car accidents on the road, and a lot of people that are uninsured and underinsured. They don't have insurance, not carrying coverage. So that's one thing that I would advise and suggest that you don't opt out and that you have, because it's becoming more and more prevalent.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's amazing. So I have some family that live in California. My wife's from there, and her dad got in a car accident. It's probably been like 5 years ago. Got hit by someone who didn't have insurance, and they basically just let the guy go.
I don't mean to laugh at it like that, but I mean, yeah, absolutely. Like he got hit by insurance, and the guy, just so you have to fall back, file a claim through you, and then pay your deductible, and you have to take the hit on it.
Right.
And so yeah, just having that in your back pocket is just it's just better to have it than not to have it. And it's really not a whole lot to have underinsured and uninsured motorist carrier coverage on your policy. It's not.
Well, and not to mention that it's illegal to be driving a car without insurance anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep, we see it all the time.
Yep. Yeah. So, okay. So how long have you been working for Farm Bureau? How long have you been doing insurance?
Year.
A year. Okay. I was going to ask you about, like, have you seen, because of the community or because of the demographic of what's going on here, have you seen kind of like an uptick in insurance? Like, it's kind of tough because you've only been doing it for a year, but like, have you gotten an increase of customers coming in because there's more people here? Or has your firm, like the people that you work, because you work with another individual, right?
Yeah, so I work out of there's a home office here, and so we're seeing where rates are going up, and so and that kind of goes back to the discussion at the beginning, where to pass on even back to with everybody that's moving here. So when you have an influx of just thousands of people that are moving to a certain geographic area, the rates are just naturally going to go up. The insurance company they don't have a choice.
Right.
So sometimes it's a double whammy, because you have just the influx of people that have moved, and then you have, if you have insurance through a carrier that's nationwide, and they're trying to pay out these big claims that happen in another state, well, then you're gonna have a rate increase because of that, because we're pretty much essentially a non-catastrophic state, so we don't have tornadoes or things like that. Or but yeah, I do see a lot of it. I see a lot of people just saying, man, our insurance, we have this 2012 truck, and now this only used to be $79 like 3 years ago. Now it's $250, and it's like, well, it's gotten more busier. There's more accidents. You have a lot more people on the road, and it's problematic. And it's also rated by county. So believe it or not, like if you live in Canyon County, you're going to be rated higher. And I don't know if it's because of just like the rate, like the cadence or the pace, but like in Canyon County, you are rated higher. You're going to have a higher bill, and vice versa. Like in Ada County, it's actually less, and I kind of scratch my head. I don't understand that, but
I live in Canyon County,
yeah,
and I've lived in Ada County before too.
yeah,
But it used to always be like, to the point, and my mom says this, and like this is just one person's opinion. But if you had 2C on your plate, and if you live around here, you know that 2C means Canyon County, right? And 1A means Ada County. And so it was funny. We used to go to the DMV and not get those plates, because if you got those plates, then people would associate you with Canyon County and think you're a bad driver. And I don't know if that's what it is, but that's my take on it. I think Canyon County people might be bad drivers according to everyone else in the state.
yeah. I mean, I can't attest that, but
Yeah.
maybe there's just more accidents, or who knows what's going on. But yeah, there's a clear indication.
That's my big research there. I did some serious research on it. But I just know that, like, it's funny because my parents moved from Ontario, Oregon is where I grew up, and we moved to Middleton, or they moved to Middleton, and I had lived in Caldwell or whatever, and it was funny. She always got the ski plates because it doesn't say what county you're from, because she didn't want people thinking you're a bad driver. And I don't know if that has anything to do with anything, but that kind of makes me wonder,
Yeah, it could. I mean, just seeing the rating factor by county, maybe there is something there. It's a more problematic area where there's just more accidents, but than over the Ada County. But the people that make these rates and determine the rating factor, I mean, these are some pretty intelligent, brilliant people, and so they obviously run the numbers, and that's
Yeah.
that's the reason why. So
They
there's
have the
got to be
data that
something behind it.
proves that's, that there's
Yes,
something going on.
yes, exactly.
It's funny. I remember. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Along Came Polly, but it's hilarious to me because that guy's a risk assessor, right? Like, so he's assessing
Yeah.
this guy's risk, and the guy's jumping off a building with a parachute, and you're like, yeah, I think his risk's a little bit higher than it should be.
Yeah. Same premise, dude. There's
Yeah.
just you just got some riskier people up there that maybe just may not care. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, hey man, it's awesome having you on here. I really appreciate you taking the time. It's one of those things, like I said, connection and kind of telling people who you are. And it's awesome that you've been in it for a year. I kind of know how you feel because I worked for a window covering company, but I started my own, and it's one of those things that you struggle with. I've been doing it for 3 or 4 months now here, and it's like trying to build that rapport to get those people to come to you. And so the reason I do this is because I think it's a great way for me to get to meet someone like yourself and then help you kind of build a business as well. Like I'm trying to build a business. So if people
Yeah,
are,
absolutely.
yeah, it's a great way to network. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
If people are looking to get some car insurance, some home insurance, you guys even do life insurance, right? I mean, what insurance don't you sell?
I would say, I mean, the biggest thing that we're not really big on right now is more the health side. I mean,
Okay.
I'm licensed for that, but I mean, life is a really big one, and life insurance is actually pretty important. There's different options to be able to do that, and I think the biggest misconception is we're always told life insurance is like it's a scam, right?
Mhm.
But until when you can see it through my lens or somebody else's lens, things do end up happening. I think like 1 in 3 guys almost get testicular cancer. It's hard, they're hard conversations to have with a spouse where the husband he kicked the bucket and he just didn't wake up,
Right.
and he's only 55, and and he didn't have any coverage, and it puts that person in a tough situation. Especially, it's usually the wife because they have to bear the brunt. There's still debt on the house, and there's still all these other assets and car payments, and that income now is lost from the spouse, and so it puts a strain on them. It's really difficult. But anybody can get a hold of me by email. If you type in Farm Bureau of Idaho for Boise, we're right there on. I'm right there on the website. You just look by name for Micah. But I'm really appreciative for you having me on. Really grateful.
Yeah.
And Rance is a stand-up guy. I really like Rance. And I agree. I'm on the same. I'm with you. I think it's if you're starting your own business, it's really really difficult. It's
Yeah.
really really difficult, and it's all on you. You have to take care of everything. You have to do everything, and it's everywhere from your own payroll to your own taxes, your LLC to just managing. Sometimes it spills over to your personal life, and that's a more internal. But it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's really hard. And after you become a small business owner, you're getting off, and you're just getting off the runway, and you're trying to figure this out. You can kind of see where people who were small business that were offered a service or just a product, and if you said no, and you're like, I can just get that $10 cheaper on Amazon, or I'll just get XYZ amount of bids or whatever. Just remember, at the end of the day, these people work hard, and it's truly difficult. And if you can support somebody that's local, do it. Don't
Yeah.
be cheap. And I think a lot of people skimp out on the fact that if you go through somebody local, and maybe are a little bit more than a national carrier, you're going to lose sight. You're going to get frustrated with trying to get help when you need it, because the price checked out okay, but the service is really bad, and you're frustrated, and things were left out. And prime example of that is next to the gym, there's a small place called Miss Beasley's, and they're a little bit more on
Right.
like maybe protein powder or some amino acids or multivitamin, but you know what? At the end of the day, they're trying to keep their doors open. So you have to get out there and and go to the freaking store, go buy from a local company.
Yeah.
Because eventually what's going to happen is their doors are going to shut, and you're going to keep going to Walmart, you're going to go to Target, you're going to go to Amazon or Costco, and don't be cheap. Like, seriously, go get out there and just freaking support any kind of small local business company, because it's difficult, and people are going to lose sight of that. We saw all the Blockbusters and all the things like that close down, and we're seeing these small businesses close down. It's such a shame. Just do what you can, if you can, to support a local company. That's just very important.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, like, I totally get where you're coming from right now, because I came from a big company and now I have a small company. And you sit there and you think about the buying power. Like, some of those things that people don't understand is, like, when you're going into someone with window coverings. I just had a conversation with a rep today talking about how, what do we have to do? How much do we have to sell to get to the next level? Because if you sell more volume, then you get a lower price point, then you get to make more money. And it's crazy. This company was great because it's not much, but I haven't sold enough, and I'd have to sell enough by the end of the month in order to make that happen. But that's what drives their business, because if I can get it, at a cheaper price, then I can sell it for what I'm selling it for, but make a little bit more money in my pocket and survive. But if you go into a place that, like GNC, you're talking about vitamins, right? 20,000 different buildings, the product, and they paid way less for it than the other person did. So it's not as hard for them to make a profit on it, so they can undercut. And that's what you run into all the time, right? Like, it's I'm sure it's that way in insurance too. It's like, if you have a lot more of it, you can probably undercut if you had to make it work.
There's a personable side of that though too, and going back to going to this place called Miss Beasley's, because I don't know the functionality of what am I looking at? Is this like, will this help out with skin, or will this help? And they know you're paying for that, because I don't want to sit there and read through all these reviews, but she's giving me firsthand. And if it doesn't work out, I'll go back and I'll let her know. But the thing is you're paying for somebody to educate you on something. Yeah. And we lost sight of that. Because people are they're doing things through AI, they're doing things through online, and so people, in lack of better terms, have just gotten a little awkward, because they're not communicating with people, and they don't leave their houses, and they have Uber Eats. Get out there and go talk to somebody. And then when you have a conversation with somebody, sometimes they freeze up and they don't know how to talk or communicate with you. And it's like, yo, dude, like, it's okay to go out and talk to people. It's okay to spend a few extra dollars, and then it's well worth it, because the value's there, because somebody explained it to you, and they said, we actually had good feedback. If you break up your dosage this way, it was better on the body, and you wouldn't know that if you just got online and bought it, because it was $5 less. And so, you need to get out there and support local. It's very imperative. It's so big.
Yeah, communication is something that is a lost art anymore. And I think that, COVID was a bad thing that way, because, like, taking kids out of school and being able to interact with other people too, like, now we have a generation that, like you just said, like, we're not going to be able to communicate. And it goes as far as, like, okay, we have to learn how to text everything, because people don't want to talk to you face to face. Like, we got to, it's nuts. It's like, we don't know how to communicate. Yeah. And then, you get people like us that are a little bit older who sit there and look at it and go, oh man, are they mad? That text looks like they're mad, because you can't see the inflection in their voice, and you know what they're going on.
Yeah, there's nuts. No tonality. You don't know. It's like, what's going on here? And then, so it's very cryptic, and sometimes it's hard to understand. It's puzzling, but COVID had a big dramatic effect on people. And, but I always think that it's good to, at least have hope and be hopeful, and whatever, because I feel like people are getting kind of back on track, and but if you don't have hope, you don't have anything. And so people have gotten out now. Some people have gotten out, and they're talking and they're communicating with other people, but that's all mindset. But I personally feel like there are some people that are starting to etch out, and they're getting out to go talk to people, because now you can shop from home from anything. You don't have to leave your house. and you can have groceries sent to you, and these big companies really don't care. It's like, what? Because I was at Albertsons, and I was kind of had a few too many beers, but I wasn't driving. But I saw this person in this jacket, and it's bright orange, and I'm like, I'm like, are you a flagger? And she goes, no, I just do all the shopping. And I was like, interesting, like, how does that work? And she's like, oh, you just go online and you pull your car up, and we just shop for everything, or we just deliver it to you. I'm like, so you're telling me people don't get out of their house and just drive across the street to go to the grocery store to just pick up a few things, and maybe you might run into somebody, and you would talk to them, or you talk to the checker, ask them, how is your day going?
Yeah.
And that's what we really lost sight of, because, people caring about other people, and you notice it when you go to the gas station. And I just naturally do it, but like, I'll ask the clerk, I'm like, how are you doing today?
Yeah.
How's your day going? And because nobody will ask them, and you just see them light up because nobody asked them how their day was. And so that goes a long way. And that kind of goes back to just people being confined to their houses. It just makes people weird.
The reason why I was laughing so much about it is that my wife has the groceries delivered, and we live out in the middle. We live out in the middle of nowhere. And like, we lived in Boise for a while, and it was like, hey, I need to do this. You just get on Walmart and you pick out your card or whatever, and they drop it off on your door. And she's like, I don't have to go in there. I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't have to deal with anyone. And so we move out here, and then it goes back to, because like the other option is you can go into Walmart and you can park in their parking lot, and they'll shop for you, and then they'll put it in the back of your trunk. You don't even have to go inside. So
right.
She's been doing that here for like, we've lived here for almost 2 years, and 2 weeks ago they said that they would deliver it out here. So now she's like using that again. And it's just kind of funny because the first order that they brought us, they left it at the neighbor's house, and the neighbor didn't even know that it was out there for like until the next morning, and everything was ruined. So it was just kind of funny. But I'm like, we go to this extreme. Like, I don't want to go to the grocery store, but then you start to wonder why the grocery store is the way that it is when you do go in there. There's all these self checkouts, and there's all this stuff because someone else is shopping for everyone else, and they don't need a checker anymore.
I know, and it's crazy. You have to bag your own groceries and check out everything, and which also, I mean, that puts on probably a little bit of strain with those larger corporations, because now they're taking a hit with, and maybe their profits are already so good where small things were missed when you're checking out, and you're not being honest about it. But I do see where it would be good to have somebody go shop for you. Like if you are just feeling blue, you're not feeling emotionally well, or if you're really sick,
or you're elderly and you can't walk into your car, or you can't drive. Not if you're an able-bodied 44-year-old.
Yeah, then you should be able to go out there and do it. Because I run into people all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's really good to see somebody that you catch up with and then have a good laugh with, and you almost feel better because, you just need to talk to people.
Yeah. And the funny thing about it is I'm giving my wife grief about it, but like the reality is that like I've kind of fallen into that myself too. It's like, why would I want to go in there if I don't have to, Yeah. And then you end up going in there, and it just becomes that way because that's the way society has made it. So it's definitely better to have a conversation for sure.
It is. Yeah.
Yep. Well, thanks a lot, Micah. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Super excited to have you on here. Great conversation. We'll make sure that we get you posted out there. And if you guys are looking for insurance, Farm Bureau, Micah Orchard, will get you taken care of. So, all right, everyone, thanks for hanging out. This has been brought to you by Shade Bros, my company. If you need some window coverings, please give me a call, 208-99-SHADE. We'll get you set up in the Treasure Valley, McCall, Sun Valley, surrounding areas. We'll get you taken care of. Until next time, I challenge you to find the shape of your success.
Appreciate it.